My name is Carin Klaesson from Nobel Prize Outreach in Stockholm, one of the outreach arms of the Nobel Foundation. And we are so happy for this Q&A together with you and supported by our international partners. That's 3M, ABB, Ericsson and Scania. Partnerships that enables our outreach activities around the world. So let's start. And the theme that we are going to explore now is broadly on how to be a scientist. And as the expert on this, we are so happy to welcome the Nobel Prize Laureate in Physics from 2019, Didier Queloz. Warmly welcome.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And we have this digital room filled with students eager to ask questions. And please, everyone, start raising your digital hands, your cartoon hands already, so that you are prepared to ask questions. First, Professor Queloz, you received the Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery of an exoplanet orbiting a solar-type star. Why, or rather, what brought you into science, and why astrophysics?
Well, I think it's just the curiosity. I was extremely curious. I've always been very curious, and the fact that I was, let's say, easy with mathematics. It has never been a difficulty for me at school. By the way, I was not what I call a brilliant student. You know, there are some students always on the top and always know everything. I was not that kind of student. I think there was some aspect I really liked it, and I was pretty good. But most of my school, I had kind of a mild souvenir that was okay, but what I remember the most is my friends and playings and doing things like that. So I think I went to physics because it was, for me, the most generic kind of studies you could do without the need to choose what you would like to do. I would learn a lot. It would kind of feed my curiosity about nature. And there was something I realized at that time, as I always liked doing some kind of homework, and I was handies and building stuff. I mean, fixing stuff in my home and helping my parents to do things. So I realized that all the experimental work, I really enjoyed it a lot. And I think the combination of the curiosity, the mathematics, and the experimental activities, I think drove me to the physics studies. Now, why astrophysics? Well, I could say why not, because frankly, I didn't pick specially astrophysics. I thought it was one of the coolest topic of physics. I was not sure whether I would do particle physics or astrophysics, because I think they're both just amazing in terms of what you could do, experimental development. And I think at the end, the reason why I pick astrophysics is I could not see myself in caves and basements. This is exactly what you do when you are a particle physicist. And I kind of enjoy more being in the nature and outside. And I've seen these beautiful pictures of these telescopes on beautiful place like the middle of desert or tip of volcano and mountain top, and I thought, well, that would be cool to do that, and that's how I went, and I started astrophysics, and I enjoyed it, and then I started a PhD, and in my PhD, of course, there were no plan to detect a planet. That was not at all the plan, because nobody was expecting to find a planet that kind of found. But it just fell on me, and I had, let's say, the good instinct, and I focused. I get a bit obsessive on this because I was challenged in a way by my PhD, and I was kind of alone as well, because my PhD supervisor was aware. So I felt very in charge in a way, that I had to understand what I was doing, and that's how I get the planet. So in a way, the motivation was the same, is trying to understand something, is really the curiosity, and it keeps it keeps driving me. And sometimes it's embarrassing because the curiosity is so wide. So I get curious about anything. So when I can read something on social studies or history, I really want to understand. And I think I never have enough. And that's, I think, why I became a scientist.
Thank you. That's a very inspiring answer. Alexander, you have a question for Professor Queloz, and please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm Alexander Horn from the University of Illinois. So I am a 5th year in graduate school at the right now, and I was wondering, I know I've experienced a lot of kind of setbacks through graduate school. I was wondering if you could go through maybe one experience of a major setback that you've had either through your graduate school or your career, and how did you bounce back from that?
Well, thank you for the question. I think this is really an important question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I think for you, that's really something that it took me some time to realize. It's essentially, even if you're a Nobel Prize, most of the time, I know you're not going to believe me, but you have to trust me, we're failing most of the time. Failure is part of the process of a scientist. And that makes sense. I mean, think about somebody is doing the Olympics. So everybody is highly prepared. They all want to win. That's obvious. They're all ready to win. They all could win, technically speaking. But at the end, there will be only one that will get the medal, the gold medal. It doesn't mean that they are not doing something good. It just means that maybe at that moment, at that time, they were not as good as the other, and that makes a tiny bit of difference. So science is all about that. Now, if you understand that, then there is something else that is unfortunately not easy to teach, is how you're going to react to failure, which is more on the psychological side. It's something that, in a way, it would be better to talk about your psychologist and to do a psychotherapy to understand how you're going to react to that. But I realized along my life, I reacted extremely well to failure. And I had a capability to bounce back very quick. So for a couple of days, I feel really sad, whatever. It could be something related to a very personal matter, or it can be related to my professional career. I have a kind of a high capability to bounce back. And I don't know whether you have to learn it. It's maybe because I got lucky, because I tend to be very optimistic in the way I see life, which sometimes a trap, because I do things I should not be doing, because it's pretty clear it's going to go to failure, but so optimistic, I believe I can do it. So there is this kind of attitude bouncing back, but this depends on each of us in that how you're going to do that. Though there is one thing you can learn that is perfectly true, is trying to accept that maybe the education you got as a child is not perfect, and your parents have been trying the best they can, but they're not perfect. And you have plenty of failure in your educations in terms of psychological failure. So we're all going to react to a situation a different way. We all will be feeling not confident enough to do something. It depends also the social environment. It depends also if you're part of a minority. It may depend on your gender. All this is going to have an impact on the way you're going to react about anything in your life. Now, the capability you will build to, let's say, build on that and fix it, because it's really what you have to do. I mean, don't believe your education is over, and it's still valid for me, which I'm 55. I keep learning on the best way to react to situations that I just don't like. Will make you, I cannot say it will make you successful, but certainly it will make you a much more happy scientist, because as soon as you start dealing with that, you start taking perspective. And you start seeing the time is with you, and your life is made of many chapters. So some chapters may be, amazing, but most of them, they will be boring. And some of them will be very dramatic in a sense that you don't really want to experience them, but you will have to experience them. So that's what it is. So if you understand that, and that it took me some time to understand, you will manage. But there's no magic one here. It's really up to you. But if you feel you have some difficulty, my only advice is talk to your psychologist, because it's not about science, it's about your psychology, how you're going to react to a situation which is ingrained in your way you have been educated, and also maybe in the way you just built, your brain is reacting to it.
All right, thank you. And if I just quick follow-up, so would you then say that, you know, resiliency is like a key skill for a scientist, in your opinion?
Well, you know, I don't think, I mean, I don't like the term of skill, because my understanding skill is something you can learn. So you could be a good skier because you learn how to ski. So you learn a skill. It's more related to your capability, what you can do. You know, I know I'm pretty good at ski. I used to be a ski teacher, but I know I'm very bad at other sport. Like I'm bad at playing football and basketball, all team play. I'm very bad. I'm moving badly. I don't feel what the other are doing. So I know I have something I do good, but I have some other thing I don't do good. And I've learned about this. So I inherited some capability, and then some of them I pushed them to be a skill. But resilience is one way to deal with that. But not everyone is gonna be resilient. You may have to find another way, because you will start thinking about things and you will have difficulty to digest this. In that case, you may need some help to do that. And I know it seems a little bit theoretical at your stage, but the idea that you can fail is something that you have to learn. And there is something which is unfortunate, is most of you are brilliant students. The reason why you are here is because you're engaged into a scientific career. So you have passed a lot of exams. You have been on the top of the class most of your time. You have managed to rank such that you managed to get entry into university. So you're used to success. It's part of the way you build up. Your family was pushing you, maybe your uncle, you're used to be surrounded by this kind of feeling of success. Well, now you're reaching the Olympics game. Everybody is good. So your success is still something you can rely on, but there is many good people. And the difference is subtle. And you may be good one day and bad another day. So it's not only about resilience, it's also trying to take some perspective about what you're doing. And when you do something, you have to accept that you're not going to play your life on something. You should say, okay, I'll try that. If I fail, so I do something else. That's okay. It's part of the game. You are the front edge of the science. You're planning to reach the unknown. And when you do the unknown, I don't know if you do a long walk in the wild. I mean, it's easy to get lost. It's part of the game a little bit, but you get lost for some time, and then after you find your way back, and so on and so on. That's how it works. So resilience is something very strong, because we talk more about the resilience experience when you experience something that is dramatic. You experience something that have an impact on yourself, on your life, on your self-esteem. Well, I hope that you never reach this level by doing something about science, because if the first setback you have about your scientific result is affecting your self-esteem, I think you will have a difficulty to handle that the whole life, and you should better try to address it right away by trying to engage into a kind of psychotherapy to understand why you're reacting so strongly to something which is just science.
Thank you very much.
Something that is just science. Okay, I think, Julia, did you have a question?
Yes, good morning or good afternoon. I'm Julia Downing. I'm a PhD candidate at Northwestern University in the United States. I wanted to ask you, do you have any hobbies or skills outside of science and outside of your research that you feel keep that curiosity alive and contribute to your science in indirect ways?
Okay, yeah, of course I do. Well, I don't need to keep my curiosity alive. I'm curious about anything, but I like doing other activities, because there is a moment when you work too much with your brain, and my brain at least got completely saturated, and I need to do something different. And the way I do something different is try to do something that doesn't require a lot of brain. It could be just go for a walk. It could be just going out in the day, or a weekend in the mountain, and just, or I mentioned I I love skiing, so I just go skiing. I like still fixing stuff in my house and building stuff and doing some paintings, but not I mean art painting. When I mean repainting a furniture, a wall is something which is very good for my brain. I like doing a little bit of gardening. I think it's very good because it's very simple activities. So this is the kind of activity I'm doing. But the difficulty when you are in a job that you don't feel like a job, because what I'm doing is I mean, I feel so fortunate because every day I'm so happy to do what I'm doing and I don't feel I'm working. So there's always a kind of a mixing situation where you're working and people are giving you money for that, but you don't feel that you really own money because you're doing that for fun. It's so much fun what you're doing. So everything gets a little bit interlaced, but I realize I really need that part. No, there is another bit I need. I need the social interaction. So social interaction is on a wide sense. I mean, social interaction outside my world of science, which is my family, my friends, and doing something which is just talking about anything. I mean, about the society, about politics, about life, about anything. So that's something I like very much, because it's also very fascinating to interact with people. But also I try to also engage in this kind of discussion to some extent with the people I'm working around. So we're trying to also experience what's called social interactions within the working place, because it's part of the life. And one of the things I do is every month I bring all my team to the pub and we have other kind of conversation that the usual business-like conversation we're having. So yes, I do pretty much a lot. My problem is I need to sleep quite a lot. You know, we keep hearing about this super CEO that sleeps 6 hours and oh my God, I cannot do that. I need my 8 hours of sleep. I mean, I need my sleep, and if I don't get my sleep, my brain doesn't work. So I really need to sleep, and to get a good sleep, you need to stop your brain working at least 1 or 2 hours before you sleep. So you have to have some kind of other activities. So I'm trying to adopt very strict rules. There's a time when I just stop working, and like after 8 p.m. I just don't do anything in terms of work related. I don't touch the computers because I know it's going to be very bad for my sleep. And then it opens all the possibility. You can be reading book, can be talking, can be going for a walk, can be exercising. There'll be a lot of activity. But yes, of course I do. You know, Nobel Prize looks to be people that seems to be only be working. That's completely wrong. We're just like you. I mean, we all have a lot of activity. The only thing that we have is we have been a bit lucky in a way, because we did a major discovery that had an impact on the science. But plenty of people are doing discoveries and even major discovery that unfortunately is not going to turn about Nobel Prize, but we're all about the same in terms of activity here. So yes, do a lot of other activities and don't never stop all the other activity you're doing. You know what? I tell you something. When I see my PhD students too often coming in the office, I tell them, what are you doing there? I mean, do you think science is done in the office? I mean, science is done by feeling good and getting ideas. So I don't want PhD students that are working 10 hours a day. I think I start to panic when I see that. I think you cannot do proper work more than 4 or 5 hours a day. That's about the maximum. All the rest, you can wandering around, you can chat, you can talk in front of the coffee machine, you can listen to talk. That's okay. That's part of the fun. But proper work, come on. I think we're limited to do that. I don't think we can do that with such an extent. So maybe when we're sleeping, we're working in a way, we got creative. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe we dream about our work.
Yeah, maybe we
So
do.
much.
Of course we do. We're dreaming about anything we're doing during the day. So since we're doing something which is attracting a lot of attention, I do expect that it has an impact on our dreams. I really remember my dreams, so I cannot really tell much story about that. But certainly the few dreams I remember, there's always a little bit of interlace about something I'm doing, but it's so weird usually. So I don't know what it means.
The brain is working. I have another question. Let's see. Yes, Iga.
Professor Queloz, I had a question. I was wondering when you, Julia, also said that about your supervisors. I read in one interview that some very successful film critic said that part of his success are his masters and choosing the right master. And I read that you shared the Nobel Prize with your PhD supervisor.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what is the history? Why you choose Professor Mayer? Why why you work together on this topic? Why this topic? And how to see that you are under the right person and who will guide you well.
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's a fascinating question. There are clearly something special with the time you're going to spend doing your PhD, because that's a time when you will move from one stage to another stage where you will, in a way, will be free. In a sense, that's a kind of a very kind of a ritual process that you're going when you do your PhD. So you better do that with the people you feel well. That's always my advice. I mean, when people are trying to choose a PhD, what to do, my usual advice is to tell them, well, the topic doesn't matter very much, but think about who you're going to do it, because you're going to work during 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, depending on the structure you're working with. It's a long time, and that person is going to put you in a position where you will start your career. So it's certainly something I would advise, at least not to pick a PhD supervisor you don't have a good feeling with. That's really something. So you don't need to feel ecstatic about your PhD supervisor. You just have to ask yourself whether you will be able to work. It's the matter that it's a behavior, it's a human behavior, it's a human interaction during that time. So I think it's really, really essential. And if I may say, I think it's even more critical if you're a woman, because in some of the activity of science, I mean, it's still challenging to be a woman in the science because there's simply a minority. So they have difficulty to feel at ease just by this simple fact. Why? I don't think there is any specific threat that they will experience. The perception that they feel a minority, and it's also valid if you're for a minority, from an ethnic minority as well. It could be certainly something that could be stressful. So in that case, it's even more important to pick a PhD supervisor that you will feel, I cannot say is exactly what you want, but certainly we'll try to understand, or we'll try to make an effort to understand what you may be able to experience. So I think certainly picking up the PhD supervisor is someone which is critical. So in my case, the reason why I decided to do a PhD with Michel Mayor, because the way he was teaching was, let's say, a bit messy. It was not very strict. And I need that, because when I have a professor which is too well organized, that tend to tell me too much the detail of the story, it prevents my creativity to build the rest. I realize that. So the best teacher I ever had, they were usually the teacher that were telling 80% of the story, but I had to make up the 20% that was left. And by doing this last step, I would understand way better anything I would do. So Michel Mayor was about of that kind. He was that kind of style. And he's someone very nice. It's a very nice person. He's a very civilized person. And to me, that was good enough. No, the project was kind of interesting because it was about building a new kind of instrument. And I mentioned to you, I get attracted by building equipment at that time. So to me, that was a nice combination of skill that I could be using, is the pleasure, and I was easy about hardware stuff. At the same time, this work had a heavy component and creativity on the software. And I like software. It's like a game for me. So I really had a lot of pleasure making the software with the hardware and trying to do that using a lot of mathematical tricks. So to me, that was a good match between the expectations of what I would do and the personality of my PhD supervisor. But the topic, it said, oh, we should be working on that. Frankly, I didn't feel it very exciting. but it did not matter at the end because I did what I wanted to do at the end, because I was not really exactly working on what he told me to do. And finding the planet was certainly not part of the plan. But at the end, he was happy. And that matters.
Thank you.
Well, I think that, I mean, the knowledge, a mentor's knowledge is of course very useful and good in many ways, but I've heard you said, Professor Queloz, that being young is actually a good thing in science, and I think you meant the openness that comes with it. Could you perhaps elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I think being young is good for everything.
I agree.
Well, maybe there is one thing is not good at. Usually you're looking for money when you're young, and usually you expect to have more money when you get a bit older. That's the only big difference. But all the rest, it's better to be young. I mean, look, your energy, your creativity, you have no limit. And you have this capability to think beyond anybody, because anywhere you have not had too many settle back yet. You never experienced some limit. You believe the world is to yours, and you're right, and that's the way it has to be. But the energy and this kind of raw energy and creativity is real. And I can feel it. I mean, there is a time when you still have some creativity, is still there, but you start to know too much. And then you say, oh, maybe I should be careful here because it looks like this. So it could be good to give some advice, but sometimes it's better to not know too much, to just try it and experience it. So yes, that's clear. And there's something that people tend to forget about this Nobel Prize prize is when you see the people getting the prize, they look very old. That's true, they are old. I don't know the average age, maybe 65 or whatever. But when you look, when they did actually the discovery that is going to give them the Nobel Prize later on, there is typically, in most of the time, 20 to 30 years. So they were really young when they did it. So you are at a time when you can make major discoveries, and especially in physics. Mathematics, I think it's even younger. When people talk about major achievement in math, they consider it's between 20 to 30 years, because after people get, the brain seems to be exhausted to be creative. So yes, you're amazingly creative. And if you're doing a PhD right now, there's something else you have to realize. Because you have been so focused and obsessed about your work, you know more than your supervisor. You may not have realized this, but you know more, especially when you reach to the end, which is exactly the purpose of that, because you're going to be so focused on some part of the landscape that the supervisor may be interested with, that it ends up, you will know more. So I hope this should give you confidence of your capability to go beyond. Now, of course, you may want to expand it a little bit better. You want to explore maybe different avenues, different branches that you may have left aside, but you do have this capability. So I do believe that you can do amazing stuff. The other thing you can do is, I think you can grow up family, have kids, and working like crazy at the same time. I mean, right now, my kids are grown up. When I was much younger, I could work during the day, taking care of my kids at school, bringing them back, doing the homework with them, and they keep working later on. Because I could have this capability to do that. No, I can't do that anymore. So the energy you have to dealing with the family aspects and the work and your own energy to do something new, it's much better to get young, to be young to do that. And I always have my advice. My kids, I tell them, just don't wait too much to do babies, to make babies, because I think you have so much energy right now. It's much easier to do it when you're younger than wait too long, because after, when you have to combine everything, it's not going to work the same way. So yes, you are amazing. You have the amazing energy, and you can do even more than you have to think.
No pressure there, but you need to solve everything now. Okay.
No, they don't have to solve it now. I mean, they should not wait by expecting that later it will be better. No, it's not. There's not that. Of course, it will expand what they're doing, but you don't need to wait. No. Do it now, because you can do it, and don't need to wait expecting that you will have a permanent position or that kind of stuff later on, because at that time, I can tell you, you will do far less than you're doing right now.
That's a great advice.
And you will regret your days as a PhD.
question, seize the opportunity to ask. Anyone?
I think Tom is.
Hello, Tom.
Yeah, hi, Professor. Yeah, my name's Tom. I'm from the University of Queensland. So I'm just tying into a little bit of that idea of creativity that you were just talking about. A lot of people are really brilliant, like learners and students, but struggle a little bit to apply that to actually create new things or to apply that into researching new things. And I want to know if you think there's any like key attributes or strategies that you think sets apart people who are great learners from people who are also great creators and researchers.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I mean, that's clear that this is something that we are trying to be very careful about when we do recruitment for PhD. You can have amazing students that are extremely good at passing exam because that's a skill you learn in some when you do your undergrad studies, you learn all the tricks how to do it, and at the end you can do it in a way because you know what people are doing, you know what they expect. So this is one part of the game, which is to test the potential capability of your brain. Now, what you're going to do with that is a complete another story. And unfortunately, it depends a bit from country to countries because some countries are trying to promote this creativity a bit better than others. But there's some systems, and one of them that I know very well is Cambridge. Cambridge doesn't promote at all the creativity as part of the cursus. They really promote the idea that you have to pass the exam. The creativity is something aside that you have to cultivate yourself. So what does it mean, cultivating your creativity? Well, there is different aspects. Well, first is you have to build some kind of trust, confidence in what you could do, and anything you would do which is new doesn't mean, if it's new, it does not mean that it is bad. It means it may be interesting. So it's a bit your education, how you have been trained to deal with the novelty as part of your education. Some of us may have experienced amazing family or surroundings, and anything they would do, they would be encouraged to push it further, and they have this creativity embedded into themselves. Others may not have experienced that, and I think they should ask themselves how they feel when they want to approach new avenues and new knowledge. I don't have a trick here. I still believe it's about an attitude. Maybe the training is trying to do something different. If you are very skilled in mathematics, well, maybe you should go to museum and try to see what seeing this picture may do to you, or maybe think about maybe doing something completely different to try to stimulate this kind of creativity that we do have. I mean, we all have the creativity, so that there is no doubt. I do believe this is one of these design from our species. I mean, we are curious, we are creative. It's all embedded. When you look at the kids, they all have it. Now, it seems that some of us are able to cultivate that better than others, and some of them are very good at trying to killing this creativity or refraining the creative they have. So singing, for example, could be good. If you like singing, you should just do it, because that could be something that would help you to develop this creativity. So I don't have a specific advice again, but what I'm trying to tell you here is there is one part which is the knowledge-based element you get, and then the capability, the skill you have to think in a rational way, or to think quicker, or to assemble pictures or connections, and that's all the tricks and tools that is part of the skill that to some extent as a scientist we're building up. But there's all the other element which called the social skills that some people have difficulty with, which is okay. I mean, you may be socially someone that is not at ease, but you have to think how you're going to handle some social element that is the one that you need to do some kind of creativity work. So you may decide that you are okay by interacting with very few people, because you're not very at ease when you have too many people, and then you can maybe try to join some kind of clubs or that are doing something. They could do They could study poetry. They could sing, and they could just walk. They organize a walk in the countryside, whatever. It's just trying to stimulate this other element that you never cultivated as part of your studies. And I think for our whole life, it's essential, because what you've learned in the first 30 years of your life, it's a time when you have been able to grasp a lot, because the brain was extremely plastic. But I can tell you, the brain keeps being plastic, and even when you reach 80 years old, the brain is still plastic, and you can keep learning, and you can keep getting new stuff, because that's the way we design in terms of species. So I think this element that you identify, if you feel that you are missing a little bit of creativity, you should really try to ask yourself, well, what is creativity? What do you understand as creativity? Maybe you should talk to some of your best friends about that, and you may want to maybe experience a bit of something different about what you're doing usually, and this may maybe trigger some bells and maybe open some opportunities. So it's like meeting new people. Sometimes it's fascinating, because you realize that by meeting new people, you learn something you had never imagined. It could be feeling, it could be a new culture, it could be new knowledge. So that's what it is. So even if your work require a lot of attentions and focusing, which I understand, because in a way you're passionate about what you're doing. I mean, be careful not to leave aside your own self, your own psychology, your emotion in a way, if you want to use this element as well. And that's how you may cultivate your creativity. Now, it may end up at the end, some people will be extremely creative, because that's their own nature. So they will sparkle in all directions. And some people will have limited creativity. Doesn't matter. You just have to find the best way you're working, and to use the way you're working within the context of your work. And there is no magic recipes here. I think at the end, one way may be highly successful, another one may be less successful, but it may turn out that your creative was limited, but you had the good one, and then it was exactly the way to put forward. So that would be my advice. In my case, because I was always curious, I believe I always had this, I'd say, a push to learn new things, and new things in a general sense. And I think this kind of, continued push, and kept me sharp, and I get used to look at something unusual, and I'm trying to, when I find something very puzzling, I get attracted by it, which most of the time is absolutely ridiculous, because it could be just noise, it could be just nothing, but that's who I am, and I know myself, so I know how I'm going to react. So no, I try to filter this out, to refrain to get attracted by everything, and trying to assess that, no, I need to sleep, then I need to spend some time to do that, then I have a limited amount of time to develop this unravel creativity that keeps sparkling in my head every time.
Thank you. I think Marcus have a question?
Hi everyone, I'm Marcus, and I study industrial engineering at Lund University of Sweden. So I understood, Dr. Queloz, that your finding was kind of unconventional when you did this discovery to the existing theory. So my question is, if you have a vision that is quite unconventional for a time, how do you motivate others to believe in your vision and dedicate resources to your research?
Well, it has been tremendously difficult, and I can say that no, I am enjoying this discovery, but in the 5 years following the discovery, I was not enjoying that at all, because essentially the whole world were against us, and I was confident that what I did was right, and we turned this around in all directions, and nobody was able to challenge, I think, the data, the fact that we have put forward. So, but there has been a lot of debate about the way you would interpret this data. And for good reason, because I don't want to enter into too much technical detail here. And then we've experienced an extremely violent attack. And as a young researcher, because I did that just at the end of my PhD, so I was a young postdoc, it was extremely difficult. And in a way, I used to say I survived the discovery, and I survived in a very easy way. I decided that I did what I did. I think there is nothing best you could do. I'm pretty sure that time will win, but the only way for me to survive is to essentially put the discovery on the back of my mind and forgot about it. And I didn't really use it very much. I stayed very quiet. I moved ahead. I did other stuff. I started building up other stuff. And then in a way, I went into the shadow for about 10 years. And that was good enough for me. Some people told me, well, but you're crazy. I mean, you should promote yourself about that. I mean, your supervisor has the full visibility on that. But I told them, well, look, I think I feel much better in this situation right now where I am, because there is so much attention, so much pressure on that. So for me, until I feel confident enough to really, put my head above and to receive all the flow of heat, I would much prefer to build up something a bit more quiet. And I had a kind of a difficulty in this, is I was aware how big was the discovery. And in a way, I know I would never, ever made something as big. So you barely start your career as a scientist, and you know you reach the climax of your impact. Anything you would do later on will have less impact than that one. Of course, I did a lot of cool stuff and great stuff, and there's a long list of my achievements, but still. And that was something that I have to really digest and understand and adopt a very strict rules how to deal with that. So that was really difficult. And I started to really enjoy that. Well, when my supervisor retired, I started to feel stronger, and the discovery was well established at that time. And then at that time, I started to be in a way more proud and mention that I did that until the point, when we got the Nobel Prize, maybe the time I started to really consider that as something I would not handle was just maybe 5-10 years before, something that 2010, 2012, it was shortly at the time I moved to Cambridge. So I feel very confident at that time to do that, but it's difficult. And anyway, that's, as I said, I mean, science is not only about math and publications, it's about attitude, it's about psychology, it's about perceptions, all this kind of awkward stuff about feeling. When you're a scientist, you never learn about feeling and self-esteem and all this, because that is more part of the social sciences and psychology. So scientists are well known to be pretty bad at that. On the top of that, there is also some kind of pattern in the brain of the scientist, and there is certainly in the spectrum of the Asperger's syndrome, there is quite a lot that have a tendency to be socially awkward, and which is fine in science, because since everybody is about the same, it doesn't matter, and we kind of talk to each other. But when you really go out at a level when you face a community which is broader than your small community you're being used at, there's certainly a difficulty. So that's a bit my experience. I managed to survive. I cannot say this is the only way to do that. There's certainly maybe other ways to react to that, but that's the way I found to survive the discovery and then to enjoy it, and not to be in a situation where I would have felt trapped by what I've been doing, but keep experiencing the pleasure and the joy of doing research and trying to continue to exercise my curiosity. So I know it looks a bit theoretical, but anything you would do, but if I can have an advice, is don't stick on it too much. Of course, it's good in your CVs and it would be maybe useful later on, but move to the next page, because to me, this is where the fun is. It's always to the next stage. And I remember when people ask me, people quite often tell me, oh, what is your best planet? So of course they expect me to say, oh, that's 51 Peg, the first one, which of course has a major impact on my on my life. But actually the best one is the next one, because the one I'm working on right now, because that's the one that is keep me alive. That's the one I'm spending my time. That's the one I'm talking and building a nice publication with my students and my colleagues. So this is what science is. It's about always building up on the next, knowing that anyway, anything we're doing because of the past, because of our previous work, because of the work of others, and because of the work of others. You can go back then if you want to Newton or whoever you want to go back here. And that's what science work. So you always have this kind of idea that is a slow building up capability that you're doing. And I think your task as a scientist is always to see the next step and never look back on the step back. That would be more related to doing a history of science, which is interesting, but it's not doing research on the front line of research.
The best planet is the next planet. That's a good saying. Stephanie, I think you have a question.
Yes, hi everybody, my name is Stephanie Fuchs. I'm a bioengineer over at Cornell University. And my question is a little bit about, science under the age of COVID, just because I think a lot of the traditional ways of performing research have had to be curtailed. And in the process, I think a lot of us have had to kind of reimagine how to conduct research under these new constraints. And so my question is, Dr. Queloz, in the process of navigating kind of like this new reality, are there any particularly like important takeaways or pearls of wisdom that you've come across while being a scientist under the pandemic?
Well, I think we're all learning what to do. I mean, this is clear that is a very difficult situation, especially for the PhD students, because interacting by screen, it's never the same that being able to talk in front of the coffee machine. That's essential, and communication, interactions, that's the essence of the science. So communication is different. There is still a lot we can be doing, and for me, what I learn is half of the meeting I can certainly do them by Skype or by Zoom because it's good enough for the kind of meeting we're having. But there is another half of the meeting that you can feel that we're losing something. We're losing this capability to have this informal chat, which is part of this motivation or of perception. We're part of a big family here. So I really hope that we're going to fix this situation. And there may be always something remaining, that for sure, but the fact that you prevented to travel, it's a serious limitations, because there is so much a tradition for people to meet to each other. And the fact we prevented to go to the lab for some of us, I think this is really bad. I mean, some of them are really affected because they cannot access the lab when they have running experiment the same way they used to do. The fact that we cannot teach in person or have supervision when you have a group of 10 people, you really interact. I think this is a big lack as well. So we cannot continue like that. The idea that university could move to a fully, remote way of learning, I don't believe that. I think this is not possible. We still need this contact, to a person-to-person contact. But certainly there is part of it that could be done in remote way. So I don't have a lot of magic solution here. We're trying to do. We've been trying to discuss a bit more about the perception of what's going on with our students. So we have usually a session more social when we're talking about anything but science, that helps a little bit to talk about the problem they're facing, the day-to-day issue, and that's good. I think what I'm very careful about is not to make sure that we don't have students that feeling alone. That would be very bad, because it could be very easy especially for PhD students, to feel completely locked down and alone and without really real way to interact. So that's something we have to be careful. Most of the time, hopefully in Cambridge, the college system is still working in a limited way, but it's still working, and people seem to share apartments. So they're usually not alone. They usually share apartment with 3 or 4 people. So they have still some kind of family kind of activity. but I know it's not the case. I mean, there are some places when the students are alone in a room and they are not really anywhere to socialize. And I think this is difficult. I'm fully aware of that. And I really hope that with the vaccinations and we will get this pandemic under control. And more important, I hope we will be much more careful next time to just prevent the pandemic just to happen, because I think there has been a lot of mistakes being done at the beginning of the pandemics that we know. Well, it's always easy. You're always more clever once you know what happened. I mean, for sure. But I hope that with all what happened, people will digest this properly, and we will have a kind of a global understanding how we have to react. The big lessons learned here is you can be the biggest country in the world. You're not going to fix that if the other country are not doing that as well, because it's a worldwide pandemic. So I hope that the WHO will get out of this stronger and with a clear mandate to never that again, because it's in a way we're experiencing to some level something which is like a war. And when you think about the Second World War, the people what they experience, it's not the same, but we have this kind of feeling, and we prevented travel, prevented to do things. We lost a lot of our freedom, and then some people can die, and that's quite a strange experience, I must say. So don't stay alone if you can do that. That would be my only advice.
Good advice. We have not that many minutes left, and we have 4 persons who would like to ask their question. If we really try, we could fit it, I hope. So, Kansu, I'm sorry for that pronunciation.
It's Jansu, but never mind. You're not the first and not the last one, so it's okay. Hi, my name is Jansu. I'm joining from Germany. I've studied at RWTH Aachen University in the field of engineering and now working for ABB, trying to bring technology and science closer to the industry or to people. And that leads me actually to my question, as I remember that in one of your interviews you said that we really need science out there going into politics, or and I believe also into the industry, so to really bring this technology and knowledge to everyone out there. And I was wondering if you have ever considered to go into politics or engage in some way in a social way to make an impact on society besides your scientific achievements.
Yes, actually I did, and I did it for some time. I was active on the local government because I really wanted to be part of it and to feel what it's like. I really enjoyed it, but it took too much of my time, and I thought I would be much better by continuing my work. But in my responsibility as a faculty, I'm very aware of the social responsibility. I'm trying to do a lot. I can tell you as much as I can, trying to promote ideas and to help people. And know, because, I mean, thanks to the Nobel Prize, I realized that there are really people in the government that are listening to me, and I'm part of some committee where I'm trying to enforce some regulation to ease and to help, especially the young scientists, because I think this is the blood of the science, and we have to be very, very careful not to lose brain early on. Now, the other message you mentioned is really essential. Is what I'm trying to say is you can go into science, but you may realize at some point that you like science, but you like being part of the city, or in the sense that as a politician even more. And I think you shouldn't be shy, because I think we need a lot of scientists at key position into the society. And it's kind of a general statement, I have it. I mean, it's not only in politics, it could go in any part of the society. So when we do have students and whatever they do in science, I think the message we should not be shy as a teacher to convey is, well, because you study science, you don't have to become a scientist, but you are educated as a scientist. That gives you so much of a different perspective on the world that other people that had not the possibility to understand how it works. And the society we live in is entirely dominated by the science and by the knowledge. So I think you may have a kind of an asset here, whatever you would do. So you can go into industries, you can go into financial, you can go into policies, and I think on that, I think we should try to help. And as a faculty, I do have right now one postdoc. She's from an Arabic country, and she wants to promote science for women, and she wants to have an impact on the where the science is funded, because in most of the Arabic country they don't have a kind of a national funding agencies. It doesn't work, and she wants to learn how things work, to come back to install a kind of the way that we operate with the grant, all of this. So I'm doing a lot of work with her to try to help, and I may be visiting this country and try to help them to give some advice how they can maybe do that. So I think we have a responsibility as a scientist. We're part of the society, and being part of the society is a responsibility. And even further right now with the global warming, because global warming is a mixture of a real technical problem, but that will need a social solutions. So this is exactly where the both aspects can be bridged wonderfully together.
Thank you. I'm being optimistic as you are now. Alyssa, can we, a short question, please?
Yes, it's okay. We can go overboard a couple of minutes, I'm okay.
Thank you, thank you. Alyssa, please.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Rosas, and I actually just defended my thesis a little less than a month ago.
Well done.
During my graduate career, I became very passionate about the recruitment and retention of underrepresented students to pursue advanced degrees in STEM at Penn State, so in the United States. As in your experience, especially as the big boss, the advisor, do you have any ideas or anything that maybe you've implemented yourself to help, as you mentioned, students who are not part of these minority or majority groups who do experience special challenges?
Yes, I think this is really something which is taken extremely seriously, especially in the top university, because we're facing this kind of dramatic situation that we're losing a lot of brain, and a lot of people from these minorities, whatever minorities you can think about, are simply shy of applying to big university because they don't feel part of it. And it's called the white world syndrome, what we call that. And I think this is really bad. And it's a very complicated problem because you cannot wait these students to be in the university to fix it. I think you have to go much before. You have to go in the classroom before. You have to set up a program that just explain to this community what it is university, because most of the time they don't even know that they can do that. They don't even know even that they have mechanisms for them to apply for grants. So there is a massive amount of communication that needs to be done. And this awareness that we have to be very careful, it's pretty recent. I mean, it's not something that is, remember in my days when I was students, nobody was really talking about that. So it's something that started maybe 10 years ago, and we realized that we have to be very careful about that. And we start to have some mechanisms to do that, but then after you need a lot of mentoring. But you know, it's the same if you talk about the gender in physics. It's really a serious problem, and when you talk really about a lot of the women doing PhD, I mean, you realize that they have a sense of insecurity because they don't feel confident enough, just because the way the society just have educated them, they just end up not feeling confident enough. And that's a very complicated problem. So I think the way to fix that is to make sure that every stage that has a key role into this is fully aware and trying to do something. So it starts early on at promoting and explaining to the pupils in the classroom what is available to them, to make sure that if there are some students that seems to have the capability to do so, there is some support being set up at this early stage that will help them to reach that level. And then later on to make sure that because of the new environment, they don't feel awkward and they don't feel under stress during this environment, and the environment that is offered to them is neutral. Let's say it's neutral. That's already a good point if you get a neutral environment. But anyway, that's part of the difficulty of any minority in the world. And easing the situations certainly would help a lot, but fixing it requires a lot of time. And some of the time, if you're talking about the US situation, is essentially going back to the problem that started from the 18th century that have never been fixed. So this can be very, very profound, and university is only inherited from a problem which is much deeper into the society than that. So you can do a little bit, you can help, I think you can do a lot, we're trying, but society problem is for the society to be fixed at some point, and university is playing one part of the game. There's a lot of other players that should be also helping here.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Jack.
Yes, hi Professor. So I'm Jack, a second year undergrad student from the University of Queensland. So I still got a long time in my journey as a student, and so I was wondering, in your opinion, what, I guess, field of science do you reckon in the next 10 or 20 years or so will be where the most new groundbreaking discoveries will be coming from, I guess?
Yeah, you know, that this is an interesting question, because I don't think science works like that. You know, there's the tendency of the society to say, oh, that's good. If you do business, you have a great future. Or if you do this, you have a great future. Of course, you can identify, we're lacking some kind of engineer here. We're lacking some kind of people here. Of course, this is part of the society and the government to do that. Well, to me, it doesn't apply to what's called research, because research has to be curiosity driven. So the next big field is a field that maybe doesn't exist yet, that somebody is going to discover, because there will be a brand new development and we will realize, oh my God, take the DNA, for example. The DNA has started a complete new field right now. And how many people are working using the DNA right now? It's all the molecular biology, all this vaccine, all this stuff. So it's extremely difficult to answer to that questions. So usually I'm just sitting back to telling, well, just do what you like. And anyway, if you like it, I mean, enough, you will be successful. And there is so much to learn about. And even if your topic you learn seems to be lacking a bit momentum at some point, well, you're a scientist. I hope you don't feel you have to be cornered into one field. I mean, you can start here and moving a little bit here and moving a little bit there. In my case, I started building equipment, and right now I'm running experimental setup with molecular biology, so trying to recreate life. And I had to learn in a way what is a chemistry, molecular organic chemistry diagram, which was, I can tell you, challenging for somebody that never learned that kind of stuff. So I think as a scientist, we have to keep this kind of awareness here, and I would not be too much worried about that. And if some people telling you, oh, we're lacking this kind of skill, if you want to do that, that's okay, but please, please, please don't change your focus and your passion on the basis of two rational element, which is just accounted by statistics of who does what into a society.
Great advice.
Thanks, Professor. I think that's great.
The last question, Virai.
Hello, thank you. I'm Viraj Fatherford, and I'm currently joining in from India. I study chemical engineering at KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm. And first of all, it's really a big honor to share this digital space with you, Professor Queloz. And my question to you would be that I have read that you were very curious as a child, and you also talked about having the freedom to explore your curiosity by taking apart the radio and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
don't tell my parents about that.
My question to you would be like, how has your childhood and your family been instrumental in making you the scientist that you are today?
Well, I think it certainly played a role because I almost remember nothing from my childhood, which is, I think, the best you can get, because it means I never get a trauma. I had a very happy childhood, and I went along, and I just remember stuff because my parents told me about stuff. But I have this feeling that my memory is kind of erased somewhere when I was younger, than 10, 12 years old. So it seems so awkward, but some people remember everything. I remember very little. So I guess it's certainly because I was happy, and happiness and freedom to do whatever I like, which I had actually. And that was certainly play a role, because I built confidence at that time. I was not scared to expose myself to new ideas. I retain this curiosity that I think we're born with, and I managed to keep that. I can't say until now.
Well, that's great.
Carin, if I can quickly follow up on a question as well. So, Professor Queloz, like, I would also like to know, what has the Nobel Prize allowed you to do that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise? So,
well, it allowed me to talk with many people like you. I think this is a real opportunity because by the question you're asking, it helped me to get maybe a better awareness what you're thinking, what are your worries, and at SOMI this is very interesting. So I get exposed to many more people I was before. And when I say many more people, it's outside my own disciplines. And that's one of the privilege you got as a Nobel laureate, is you have, because you become known outside your own field, then you are, by the way, exposed to these other cultures and other fields. And to me, that was just magical, because having the chance to talk to these people, it's like a full learning experience, and I essentially I feel back as a child, because I keep learning, I keep discovering new things by this chance to be exposed. That was a big difference to me after and before the Nobel Prize.
Thank you, and
thank you so much.
Thank you, Virai, for your questions, and thank you all for your very engaging questions. Before we end, I know that my colleague Rob wants to take a picture of us, so on 3, let's smile. So 1, 2, 3. Great, wonderful. And thank you so much, Professor Queloz, for answering these questions and for spending over an hour with us. It has truly been a pleasure. I wish you all a lovely day, a lovely night, wherever you are on this planet that we call ours. And enjoy and do what you like.
Yeah, thank you all. That was really a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.